In these days of post 9/11 and the days of terrorism and the days of illegal immigration, we must know who is in our country and why they are here. With our open door borders and many illegal immigrants, some of which are terrorists, coming in with fake documents, what legal way do we have to keep America safe from the terrorists who are already in our country? How do we do this? The Patriot Act. But what is the Patriot Act? The USA Patriot Act, commonly known as the Patriot Act, is an act of Congress which President George W. Bush signed into law October 28, 2001. The acronym stands for Uniting and Strengthening America by Providing Appropriate Tools Required to Intercept and Obstruct Terrorism Act of 2001. The act was passed 45 days after the September 11, 2001 attack on the World Trade Center in New York City. It substantially expanded the authority of the U.S. law enforcement agencies for the stated purpose of fighting terrorism in the United States and abroad. Among its provisions, the act increased the ability of the law enforcement agencies to search cell phone and email communications and medical, financial, and other records, eased restrictions of foreign intelligence gathering within the United States, expanded the Secretary of Treasury's authority to regulate financial transactions, particularly those involving foreign individuals and entities, and enhance the discretion of law enforcement and immigration authorities in detaining and deporting immigrants suspected of terrorism-related acts. The act also expanded the definition of terrorism to include domestic terrorism, thus enlarging the number of activities to which the Patriot Act expanded laws enforcement powers to be applied. And now, a lot of people around the U.S. have come out in opposition of the Patriot Act because of the belief in invasion of privacy and against the Constitution. They get this claim by quoting the Fourth Amendment, which says the right of the people to be secure and in persons, house papers, and effects against unresponsible researches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause supported by the oath of termination, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. People think the Patriot Act is breaking the amendment's rules and that is why they are against it, but they don't know the truth behind the Patriot Act. People think that the government wiretaps random people, which is a violation of the Constitution, but this is simply not the case. The Patriot Act is used by the FBI and the CIA to discover if there might be a terrorist or terrorism plot afoot, but they don't do this by the means of the public. They think they do. They do not just randomly wiretap. What they do is they sit down on a computer and enforce a tactic down as data mining. They type a word like terrorist or terrorism or bomb into the computer, and then their computer will go through computers around the country looking for these words on the computer. If they find the word they were searching for, they will then look at the document, and the document saying something like police arrest NJ man with bomb trap chest, and they will leave it alone and keep searching. But if they find an email saying, "Dear Hakim, I am building a bomb and I'm planning to blow up the UN," then because of this proof, they are now presented with the case that they might wiretap that person to see what their exact plans are. And because of this, they are able to arrest a terrorism bomber, and the U.S. is safer for it. So contrary to the popular belief of the FBI, CIA government does not see all your private information. They do not know more than they need to know about you, because since they only do data mining for certain words, no one will see your personal info and documents that will not contain the words they will search for.
Okay, so that was the opening argument for the team that is pro-Patriot Act or in favor of the Patriot Act. At this point, they're going to do cross-examination. So the team they're debating against can now ask them questions. Okay, and they have a maximum of 4 minutes to do so. And the timer starts now. All right, go ahead.
Can you cite your sources that you used for your argument for your opening statement?
Yes. Right here.
Okay.
Search SIRS issue.
The SIRS issues researcher on the SD library website.
Okay. Is that the only source that you had for the whole thing as far as one is the Constitution?
Right?
Okay. Do they even have any restrictions on the act? What are the restrictions?
They are restricted by law. Well,
They cannot do anything unless they have a warrant.
they cannot physically invade any of your stuff unless they have a warrant. And like he said, they use data mining to find certain keywords like terrorism, bomb, to search into computers and look at if they see those words in a document, and they are followed by things like police arrest and like past tense stuff, then they leave it alone. If it's in an email saying, "Dear Mr. Hakim."
Next question.
Okay.
What is your definition of the warrant, the search warrant? How do they go about to get this search warrant?
A search warrant is pretty much permission from a judge to search a certain premises.
Do you have proof that all of the warrants are issued by judges?
I don't have proof on every single case the Patriot Act has ever gone through, no. Do you?
Do you honestly think that all of them were asked by a judge? That all of them...
All physical warrants were declared by a judge, or the cops probably got in big trouble.
So you honestly, personally think that?
I honestly, personally believe that.
Okay, how much does this affect everyday Americans?
Very little.
Do you have sources? to state
As Mr. Weidrich here explained in his opening statement, the only time they don't just randomly go, "Oh, here, I'm eeny, meeny, miny, mo." No, Weidrich. All right, let's look through this guy's stuff. Oh, you went through school. Oh, what's that? Ooh. No, they don't do that. They search for keywords, and then if your computer has documents with those keywords on it, then they search for further keywords, and if it is sufficient to suspect you in a terrorist plot, they will investigate further.
And as far as the Patriot Act goes, it only affects the terrorism aspect. That's what you're arguing, correct?
I don't what do
The
you mean by
Patriot
terrorism?
Act only includes terrorism, correct? That's as far as they go?
What other things are you
I'm asking.
excluding? What
I'm
other
just
things are we excluding by
She's trying to ask you that it's only concerns terrorism and nothing else.
What else would it be concerned
I'm
about?
asking you to tell us.
It's to stop terrorism in the United
That's
States.
the only thing that it is.
That it is used to stop terrorism and plots
Okay.
to harm American citizens.
All right. Do we need to keep going up our time slot, or?
No, if that's sufficient, you can be done.
Sit here for 20 seconds.
Stare at me.
All right, we'll reset the clock for another 5 minutes. The girls will have 5 minutes to compose their opening argument against the Patriot Act.
I'm sorry, I'm a little sick.
All right. Benjamin Franklin once said, "Any society that will give up a little liberty to gain a little security will deserve neither and lose both." By this he means that giving up our liberty, we will gain no security and there will be no limit on what is private. Today I will explain why the Patriot Act is really the Violation Act. Ben Franklin lived through war times. He knew danger more than we knew. War was an everyday thing for people at that time, and not just an occasional shock like it is for us. As far as the 9/11 attacks or even the recent Paris attack, it's not an everyday thing. The first reason is because the Patriot Act does no good because it violates Americans' rights to privacy. From the NSL letters, there were 53 reported criminal referrals over a 3-year period. The 3-year period had 17 for money laundering, 17 for immigration, 19 for fraud, and 0 for terrorism. The Patriot Act was for terrorism only after 9/11, but they are abusing it for everything now. And that was from the U.S. Justice Department. it goes in to talk about the Fourth Amendment, and that is the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by the oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. This basically sums up that no law enforcement can search or seize property without a probable cause. The U.S. Justice Department has proved that there have been search warrants issued that were not judges approved. It basically just said, I'm going to go and search your property, not may I search your property. The second reason is some people argue, I'm not a terrorist, so why should I care? If the Patriot Act violates people's rights, then why would someone want little to no privacy? There is only one terrorist-related conviction, according to the U.S. Justice Department, which gives you an idea of what else is being recorded besides just the terrorism aspects. In response to 9 NSL's 11,100 Americans' telephone account records were turned over to the FBI, which basically means that the FBI was searching these people's telephone records with or without a probable reason, which is, again, violating the Fourth Amendment. Sources for that is the U.S. Justice Department. There are at least 34,000 law enforcement and intelligence agents that have access to phone records collected through these NSLs, and NSL stands for National Security Letters. The abuse of privacy. The Patriot Act does not require information obtained by NSLs to be destroyed, even if the information is determined to concern innocent Americans.
You have a backup, the battery's getting low.
And finally, by Senator Ron Wyden, he states that, I want to deliver a warning. When the American people find out how their government has security interpreted the Patriot Act, they will be stunned and they will be angry. And a senator has stated this.
All right, end of your opening argument. Okay. We're just getting a backup camera set up because this battery's getting low. Okay. Now we will have 4 minutes of cross-examination.
I got this.
You need 1 second here, Peyton.
Not longer than so
It's at the door.
it's loaded.
I'm ready.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Miss Ulmer here did a pretty good job of arguing, but she made a few fatal flaws. First of all, using the argument that most warrants weren't judge approved isn't really the best way to go about it, because we are in this debate. We are arguing about the Patriot Act, the legal document that was passed, not illegal uses. People could go around and collect data and stuff without having the Patriot Act. If it's illegal already, they could go around and do it without having the Patriot Act. Searches, most searches are not unreasonable, but the ones that are judge approved, in our case. Anyway, you can see, first of all, another thing with the phone numbers and phone records.
Are you going to crossfire, or are you just going to...
I'm just, if you like to hold on for a second. Okay, phone records. What do you guys believe, what information do they get when they collect phone records? What does that mean? What does phone records mean to you guys?
They tap into the phone records and...
Don't use the word in the definition.
Why not?
English teacher.
In response to the national security letters, 11,100 Americans' telephone, that was without
Yeah,
any
I'm asking,
Phone
what
records,
is your
listen-
definition of phone records?
listening in on phone conversations, text messages, any telephone records
Okay,
that were...
the phone records they collect are not recordings of the actual phone calls. They are, they get to see is the number you called and the timestamp of the call.
I'm sorry,
So
do you have any sources of proofs?
we do. Where do not have physical recordings of the phone calls. They just have the number you called and how long you called.
And these are all with search warrants.
This is, well,
They can tap in without a search warrant. That's violation of the Fourth Amendment, I believe.
Ms. Ulmer here did a pretty good job of arguing, but she made a few fatal flaws. First of all, using the argument that most warrants weren't judge approved isn't really the best way to go about it, because we are in this debate, we are arguing about the Patriot Act, the legal document that was passed, not the legal uses. People could go around and collect data and stuff without having the Patriot Act. If it's illegal already, they could go around and do it without having the Patriot Act. Most searches are not unreasonable, but the ones that are judge approved in our case. Anyway, you can see, first of all, another thing with the phone numbers and phone records. You
Are you going
guys,
to crossfire, or are you just going to?
I'm just, hold on for a second. Okay, phone records. What do you guys believe, what information do they get when they collect phone records? What does that mean? What does phone records mean to you guys?
They tap into the phone records and
We don't use the word in the definition.
why not?
English teacher.
In response to the national security letters, 11,100 Americans telephoned, that was without
Yeah,
any
I'm asking, what is your definition of phone record?
listening in on phone conversations, text messages, any telephone records
Okay,
that were,
the phone records they collect are not recordings of the actual phone calls. They are, they get to see is the number you called and the timestamp of the call.
Do
So
you have any sources approved?
you do. Which were, they do not have physical recordings of the phone calls. They just have the number you called and how long you called.
and these are all with search warrants.
This is, well,
They can tap in without a search warrant, that's violation of the Fourth Amendment, I believe.
we believe.
We know.
Our source is the search issue researcher once again. And, okay, obviously you do not know your facts about the phone records because
I'm sorry, yeah, I didn't hear your source.
search issue researcher. Obviously you don't know your facts about the phone records because you do not even know what the phone records are. So that argument should be completely eliminated.
The telephone records are telephone records.
They are not physical recordings of the phone call. It is just the phone numbers and the timestamp of the phone call. Is what they get to see.
And you're positive?
I am positive. That's all I have.
Okay. All right. The next.
And it started.
Since 9/11, we have caught 17 potential acts of terrorism because of the Patriot Act, and with as many as 15 known Al-Qaeda terrorist cells in the U.S. today, the Patriot Act is one of the most needed tools in the war on terrorism. The Patriot Act is not an infringement on the personal liberty and is not an invasion of privacy because it does not violate the Fourth Amendment. It is fully constitutional. In a time of terrorists and terrorism, America must be kept safe from harm, and if we are to do it so legally, constitutionally, and rationally, the Patriot Act must be kept around. It is a good thing, and it is constitutional, and it will help us to be safe.
I'd like to restate that, as they have pointed out, the Patriot Act was passed after 9/11. It was basically passed 45 days after 9/11 in the name of national security. The Patriot Act was the first of many changes to the surveillance laws that made it easier for the government to spy on ordinary Americans by expanding the authority to monitor phone and email communications, collect bank and credit reporting records, and track the activity of innocent Americans on the internet. While most Americans think it was created to catch terrorists, the Patriot Act actually turns regular citizens into suspects from the U.S. Justice Department. I'd also like to restate those 53 reported criminal referrals. As the opposing team, were claiming it was just for terrorism. That is not the case. The Patriot Act is expanded to include 17 were for money laundering, 17 are related to immigration, and 19 involve fraud. And as I may state again, 0 were for terrorism. And finally, as Senator Ron Wyndham had said, obviously, as he had proposed the warning, when the American people find out their government has secretly interpreted the Patriot Act, they will be stunned and they will be angry. As saying, when people finally realize how far the government is going to violate our rights, a lot will be changed within people's views.